Peace, and Ra, and thank you all for tuning in. This is your brother Radio One coming back at you again with another video of truth and historical reality. Now, the name of this video is Black Americans Must Embrace Africa Instead of Israel. Yes, why is this important? Because during this time that we're living in, during the time of the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic, Africa, out of all continents, Africa has the least number of coronavirus cases. Yes, that is a fact. Yes, out of Asia, Europe, and Africa has the least number out of all the coronavirus cases. And that's why Africa is important right now. Okay? That's why black people, we don't know how bad this virus is going to be. We don't know how worse it's going to get. But if it does get worse, if it gets bad, we're going to have to make plans to go to another location. We might have to go to Africa. Some of us might have to go to Africa. Those of us who did not get infected and do not want to get infected might have to change your location. But it's still early, so we'll wait and see. But this is very important because even after the damage the coronavirus caused, even after the damage that has been caused by the coronavirus, Africa will play an important role because a lot of people may want to relocate to Africa after this pandemic. But in the meantime, stay in, stay healthy, and stay alive. Do not go outside. Okay? Do not go outside and catch this wicked virus. We know that this is a virus that was created by the enemy. We all know who the enemy is. And do not go outside and get caught up in it. Yes. That's my advice to you. Stay in, stay healthy, and stay alive. Now, back to the subject. If Africa have not allowed Europeans and Asians into their country, Africa will have 0 cases of the coronavirus. Yes, that is a fact. But because they let these foreigners into their country, okay, these same people who has been trying to rape, rob, and destroy Africa for the longest, these same people they let into Africa, and that is why Africa has the cases that it has of the coronavirus. So my advice to Africa, listen to me closely. Africa and Africans, even if you're African living in America, tell this to your parents. Tell this to your people in Africa. Listen to me closely. Keep Europeans and Asians out of Africa. Yes, keep them out of your country. If you do not want your people to get the coronavirus or the COVID-19, keep Europeans and Asians out of your country. Keep them out of Africa. That is very important. Say no to their aid. Say no to anything they want to give you. Keep them out of your country. Stay away from them because they are the ones who originated this disease or this virus, and they are the ones who are carrying this virus. Yes, the Europeans and Asians are the ones carrying this virus. So keep them out of your country if you want your people to survive and stay healthy and stay coronavirus free or COVID-19 free. Okay? Keep Europeans and Asians out of Africa. That's very important. Okay? Now, if America had not been so careless and had not been so stupid and had not acted so careless, America could have also prevented this virus from coming into America. Okay, people knew about this virus 3 months, a couple months ago, 3-4 months, some even a year ago. They knew about it. And we warned, some of us warned America, shut down the airports, shut down the flights, but they did not listen. And now look at what's going on. Okay? So that's my advice to Africa. If you want Africa to stay coronavirus free, if you don't want African people to get affected with the coronavirus, keep Europeans and Asians out of Africa. That's very important. Forget about their smiles, forget about their laughs, forget about their friendliness. Okay? That means nothing. If they got the virus, they got the virus. Don't matter if they're laughing with you or talking nice with you. If you're next to them, you're going to get the virus. So stay away from them and keep them out of your country. That's my advice to you, Africa. Now, in most of these European countries, okay, I warned them, because a lot of these European countries had their hands in whitewashing ancient Egypt. Yes. The filmmakers who made the movie Exodus, Gods and Kings, or in Gods of Egypt, I warned them, do not make this movie or curses will come up on you. They did not listen. They made the movie anyway. And we know that the filming companies were in America, and the filming location was in Spain and Italy. And those are the three main countries that are being affected by this virus, because they failed to do right. They failed to listen. Okay? You did not want to listen when we told you to shut down the airports. You didn't want to listen when we told you not to make these movies about whitewashing ancient Egypt. But you didn't want to listen. Now, look at what happened. Now, curses are coming up on you. And now you got other people in the mix of it. People, innocent people who do not deserve it. Now you got them in the mix of it because you did not want to listen. From now on, start listening. Respect the truth. Respect the authorities. And listen. Truth and righteousness must prevail on this planet Earth, or consequences will come. That's a fact. But, okay, back to the subject. Now, Black Americans, this is why you must embrace Africa. Now, we know that Africa in 2019 had the year of return. The year of return to Ghana. Many Black Americans went back to Ghana and got a chance to go back to Africa. But the thing that bothers me is some of these Black Americans are of the Hebrew faith. And they believe that they are an Israelite, which is a total blatant lie. Okay? The real Israelites never set foot on the west coast of Africa. They never set foot in West Africa. They never set foot on the Niger River. Yes, that is a historical fact. Okay? Yes, we had some Jews in Africa, North Africa, but even those Jews, they were not even real Jews. They were converts. Yes, I have the records to prove that. They were converts. They were not even real Jews, but still they did not dwell in West Africa. So the slaves that were taken from West Africa, they were not Jews by faith, or neither they were Jews by race. Okay? They were not real Jews, and they were not convert Jews. They were not Jews at all. That is a fact. And on my new channel, I'm going to show that. And yes, to my subscribers and non-subscribers, be patient. My new channel is coming soon. I'm going to let you know about it. I'm going to post up a link and do a video letting you know about my new channel when I put some content up on it. And I'm going to let you know it's coming soon. And a lot of truth and a lot of information is going to be coming from that channel. So be patient and I'll let you know. But it's going to be hot. Oh yeah, it's going to be hot. But back to the subject. Yes, Black Americans, Okay? You have nothing to do with Israel. Okay? Take your mind off of Israel. Okay? Israelites, Jews, Hebrews, never set foot in West Africa. And the people, the Jews who took part in the trade in West Africa, or the trans-Saharan trade, those were convert Jews. Converted Jews from Yemen. And they did not live in West Africa. They lived in North Africa. Many of them, they were Berbers. They were Berbers who converted to Judaism. So they were convert Jews. They were not even real Jews. So real Jews never set foot in West Africa. So keep your mind off of Israel. Okay? Stay away from these Israelites. They're poisonous. They're liars. They do not teach real history. Okay? And you hear these Moors, they talk about the 5G and all that, the coronavirus, it had nothing to do with the coronavirus. Do not listen to them. They are full of delusions and dogma. They do not believe in reality. They do not believe in real history. They're full of lies. Okay? They're spooks, weirdos. That's what they are. Don't believe a damn thing they say. They do not deal with real history. They do not deal with reality at all. And if you listen to them, you're going to pay the price. You're going to regret it. Yes. So do not listen to them. But now, back to my point. So some of you black people want to go back to Africa. You want to embrace Africa, and Africa is going to play an important role after the damage is done from this coronavirus. So, when you go back to Africa, get this Israel, I am an Israelite nonsense out of your head. Because it's not going to make any sense. Okay? See, my question to you is, some of you want to embrace Africa, you want to go back to Africa, but at the same time, you want to say that you're an Israelite. So, my question to you is, why not go back to Israel? Why go back to Africa? If you want to be an Israelite, you want to embrace Israel, why not go back to Israel? Why go back to Africa? It makes no sense. See, and the thing is, if you go back to Africa saying that you're an Israelite, okay, that's going to make you look like you're in the wrong. You know why? Because if your ancestors, okay, if there's any truth, which is not, but let's say if your ancestors were from Israel, your ancestors or our ancestors who got enslaved in Africa, if they were from Israel and they were living in Africa and saying, well, we don't want to have nothing to do with those Africans and talking bad about Africans, and they came from Israel living in Africa, well, that's going to make you look more in the wrong. Yes. That's going to put you more in the wrong. Because the African can say, well, these people, they came from Israel. They were not from Africa. They had no business here in the first place. Yes. If you were from Israel, you had no business in Africa in the first place. That's what they're going to say. And these people will start talking bad about us on our own indigenous land. So we attacked them and enslaved them and sold them to the European and got them the hell off our land because they had no business in Africa in the first place. Yes. So by claiming you're an Israelite, puts you in the wrong. Yes. And the Africans, they have no need to apologize because you were an Israelite. You were in Africa. You were in land that you had no business being on. Yes. Yes. So if you were an Israelite in Africa, that means you were in the wrong. And the Africans do not have to apologize to you because you were in Africa. You were a foreigner in Africa that had no business being in Africa. And you were in Africa talking about we are God's chosen and this land belongs to us. and it doesn't belong to you. But the Africans who sold you into slavery were indigenous to that land. It was rightfully theirs. And they don't have to apologize for selling you into slavery and getting you to hell off their land. Yes, that's a fact. But we all know, for all of us who are studied and know the truth, we all know that that is a lie. That black people or the ancestors of black Americans who were taken as slaves from West Africa were not Israelites. Yes. So now let's deal with the truth. Our ancestors were indigenous to Africa, embracing Africa as your indigenous homeland. Okay? Let's say our ancestors who were taken into slavery were indigenous to Africa, which is the truth. We were living in peace on our own indigenous land in Africa, and another group of Africans invaded on us, enslaved us, and sold us to the Europeans to be slaves. They took us off our indigenous land. Now it's different. Okay? Now the African has to apologize to you. The African has to say, yes, I am sorry that we attacked your village, we enslaved you, and we forced you off of your indigenous land. Now the African has the right to apologize. Now the African should apologize because your ancestors were indigenous to Africa, were indigenous to the continent, did not come from Israel, but were indigenous to Africa. And I know some of you want to say, well, Israel isn't Africa. No, it's not. I'm talking about the real Africa. I'm talking about the Africa in the heart of Africa, inside the continent. Not some fake Africa called the land of Canaan that's outside the continent. I'm talking about the real Africa that's inside the continent. That's the Africa our ancestors come from. That's the Africa our ancestors were indigenous to. Okay? Now it makes sense of you going back to Africa. Because you know you have blood ties and lineage to that land. And it makes all the sense in the world for you to go back to Africa. So start embracing your African ancestors. Start knowing that your ancestors were African and not some Israelites. And some of you say, well, Israel isn't Africa, which I disagree with, which is not in Africa. But even so, even if the land of Canaan was in Africa, the Israelites were not African, according to your Bible. The Israelites came from Ur of the Chaldees. The Israelites came from, or the ancestors of the Israelites came from Mesopotamia. So they were not even an African people. They were even foreign to the land of Canaan if the Canaan was in Africa. But we don't come from some fake Africa. We come from the real Africa. We come from the southern interior of Africa. The true Africa, the heart of Africa. Now it makes sense for you to go back to Africa. Because you have indigenous ties to that land. And I'm telling you, okay, these Hebrew Israelites, they have been lying, and now they are running. And once we get them up to the panel and expose their information, yes, they are in trouble, and they know it. Their information is invalid. It's late. It's pseudo. It's not contemporary with the time. Yes, black people are not Israelites. That's why black Americans never made the law of return to Israel. Because the people in Israel know that you had no ties to Israel. The people in Israel, the authorities, the knowledgeable ones, knew that the real Israelites never set foot in West Africa. That's why black Americans never made the law of return to go back to Israel. But the Ethiopian philosophers in Ethiopia, yes, they made the law of return. Why? Because they were mentioned in Isaiah 11:11 as dwelling in Cush, or beyond the rivers of Cush, to the south of Egypt. That's where the Israelites were. They went to Ethiopia. They said, yep, there they go, the philosophers. Those are the people you're looking for in the Bible. Those are the Jews or the Hebrews you're looking for that were mentioned in the Bible. They said, yep, come on, let's go. We're taking you back to Israel. But black Americans never made the law of return because black Americans have no ancestral ties to Israelites or the biblical Israelites. Okay? You can claim to be Israel all you want. You have no connection to the biblical Israelites. If you were not mentioned in Isaiah 11:11, okay, if your ancestors did not live in Egypt, Cush, Elam, Assyria, okay, in Hamath, in those areas, you did not make the list. Those were the people that those were the people that the Jews or the people in Israel were looking for when they came up with this law of return to Israel. They went to those lands and invited those people to come back to Israel. Okay? Now I'm about to wrap it up here. Now, so it makes sense, okay? It makes sense for black people to embrace Africa. Embrace Africa 100%. Stop saying you're an Israelite. That's not true. That's not historical. All you have to do is some real research to find that out, and you'll know that. And look at, why in the hell would you want to go to Israel anyway? Israel is only 8,000 square miles wide, in size. Africa is 11 million square miles. Africa is huge. It has a lot of room for any of us who wants to go back. And it can hold a mass population. But you Negroes, you're so fascinated about Israel. Okay? A little old tiny piece of desert land that has nothing to do with you at all. A little tiny piece of land that your ancestors never set foot in. Makes no sense. You want to turn your back on your indigenous land for that little piece of land, that little area, because of your fascination with the Bible. Just like I said before, if you want to find out who you are in the Bible, just do some historical research. Find out who are the Africans in the Bible. And you'll find out that you come from Egypt. Your ancestors were the Egyptians in the land of Cush. That you are the Hamites. You come from the land of Ham. Yes. And I'm going to do a video about that. Yes, the Hamites. See, some of you have no business speaking on the Hamites because you haven't studied. The Hamites were indigenous to Africa. They did not come from anywhere else. Even the Bible says that. Yes. I'm going to prove that in my future videos. So, get your mind off Israel. If you see these Hebrew Israelites, run. Okay? They are lost. They're stuck in the matrix. They're stuck in delusion. And hopefully they will wake up to the truth one day. Some have already have. They already woken up to the truth. But you still have some that's stuck in delusion. Do not listen to them. They're lying to you. Black people, the ancestors of black Americans were indigenous Africans. We were indigenous to the continent. We were not invaders from a foreign land. We were indigenous. And we were wrongfully taken off of our land and brought to this strange land here in America. Okay? If some of you want to say, well, stop talking about Kemet, stop talking about Cush. Well, let me tell you this, okay? Because this is where some of you, you lack knowledge in geography, okay? We still, even as West Africans, we still can be from Kemet and still be indigenous West Africans. You know why? Because that land from the west bank of the Nile all the way to the Atlantic Ocean is one land. Yes. So saying that we come from West Africa or we came from Kemet, that's just another way of saying, well, we come from the eastern part of West Africa. Not saying that we come from a foreign land, we just come from the east. But we're still indigenous to the continent. That's like someone in Arabia saying, well, we don't come from Western Arabia. We don't come from Eastern Arabia. We Western Arabian. Them Eastern Arabians, they foreigners. Makes no sense. Eastern Arabia, Western Arabia is still Arabia. Even from India. Well, Eastern India, Western India, still India. Okay? What Africa, East Africa, West Africa, still Africa. So we still can be from Egypt and still be indigenous to Africa. That's what you have to understand. Okay? Garfield and all these fraud squads, stop spitting this nonsense. Stop telling these lies. You Negroes are not making any sense. Okay? And you're lucky I haven't been able to get in touch with the Sarnetta TV show. So I tried to call in to see what the hell some of these Negroes talking about, but I could not get through. But they talking nonsense. Do not listen to them, okay? Garfield, okay, or a credit repair specialist. And this Negro is Rob Bourne, okay? A personal trainer trying to teach history. Stick to personal training and let the historians teach history. Okay? I eat, sleep, and drink history. I don't do anything else. History is my first and only love. Okay? And I'm not going to sit up here and let a personal trainer and a credit repair specialist and a pseudo science geneticist tell me about history. No. I do not want to hear what you have to say, because you're not qualified to speak on history. And that's why you talk the nonsense that you do. And some of you even admit that you're not an expert. Well, why don't you become an expert first and then talk on it? But until then, shut up and shut up the nonsense. Shut up the lies. Shut up and let the historians teach. Let the authorities teach on what we love. So, I'm going to wrap it up there, people. Okay, black people, black Americans, know that your ancestors were indigenous Africans. You were indigenous to the continents. Yes. And that makes perfect sense of you wanting to go back to Africa. Okay? And you will love Africa even more if you embrace your African ancestors and know that your ancestors were indigenous to the continents. But if you sit up there and talk about, we come from Israel and I want to go to Africa, you're going to stay stuck in confusion. It's going to kill you inside, and you're never going to make any sense. You're never going to be at peace. So, with that said, this is your brother Radio 1 coming back at you again with another video of truth and historical reality. And until next time, black Americans stay African and Egypt stays in Africa. Peace and all praise to Amun Ra.